Hello and welcome to Taller Together, the podcast where we look beyond the surface of success, creativity and leadership in the art world to explore the unseen structures that hold everything up. Today's conversation is one I've been really looking forward to. My guest is Salma Uche-Okeke, CEO of the Uche-Okeke Legacy, a family-led foundation stewarding the artistic and intellectual estate of her father, Professor Uche-Okeke, one of the most pivotal figures in Nigerian modernism. But this conversation isn't only about history, it's about responsibility, about infrastructure, about what it really takes legally, emotionally, organizationally to keep an artistic legacy alive rather than frozen in time. Salma also hosts her own podcast, Coffee and Uche-Okeke, and I love how thoughtfully she bridges past and present, care and innovation. Salma, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Happy 2026 to us all, Tamzin. Thank you for having me.
Salma, you're involved in so many things at once, from the Nigerian Modernism exhibition that's currently on at the Tate, running until March this year, to the ongoing work at Asele Institute, to new digital initiatives that are opening the archive in very contemporary ways. When you step back and look at everything you're holding right now, what would you say are the core objectives guiding your work?
Let me segue into the conversation, if I may, by mentioning that for us at Uche-Okeke Legacy, the ongoing Tate Modern Nigerian Modernism exhibition is the most recent example of the many institutions and individuals who continue to recognize Uche-Okeke's importance and contributions to modern African art. Our foundation, of course, remains fully confident in the strength of our brand and is always ready to engage with others who acknowledge the greatness of Uche-Okeke. Having said that, the primary objectives guiding our work are the amplification of the artist's brand, and these will always be our guiding principles. This includes maintaining the continual relevance of the artist and his body of work. Luckily, because work naturally lends itself to evolution, and I would say offers an intriguing space for reinterpretation and significant growth opportunities. Following the guidelines and objectives established by our founder and mentor, who provided us with clear blueprints, we recognize that we must operate to the highest standards. So to establish a world-class foundation, we have put in place the necessary legal and financial frameworks despite initial challenges. After detailed consultations with our legal partners, we realized that to honor the legacy and manage family dynamics, we needed to operate through two separate entities in line with Nigeria's statutory requirements. And these are Asele Institute GTE Limited, a company limited by guarantee, and the Professor Uche-Okeke Legacy Limited, the family holding company. The unique relationship between these two companies in safeguarding and promoting the Uche-Okeke Legacy is what we see as a competitive advantage if carefully nurtured. We have merged the two entities into a single front end, Uche-Okeke Legacy, while the two organizations continue to collaborate behind the scenes. You know much about this process, Tamzin.
Yes, it's quite a lot. These unseen underlying structures that you've built and you've had to build to make sure that your father's legacy stays alive rather than becoming purely historical.
A lot of people wouldn't realize how much goes behind the scenes, but you also have a good idea that there's a whole lot going on to sustain what we have in the front end.
Yes, I love what you're saying about that activity rather than preservation as stasis, that there's something quite radical in that. The idea that care for a legacy means allowing it to keep moving.
Exactly. Allowing it to keep moving is its bloodline. Without that continuous evolution, it's going to fizzle out, it's going to die. When you're building the foundation, you're trying to put in place something that would continue to evolve till the end of time, as long as it can go. And that means that you have to be ready to keep reinterpreting, to keep growing, to keep leveraging on new things that come up, and then digging back into the past as well. It's a lot, but it's actually very interesting.
It is indeed. I mean, when people read about an artist or visit an exhibition, they often don't see that governance, the contracts, the family conversations, the emotional labor underneath. Was there a moment where you realized just how much invisible architecture this kind of work requires?
That's a funny thing. It's like we were basically brought up to continue with the legacy without even really knowing it. But the reality of it is we simply plunged into it and swam with the tide. We are learning and unlearning as we go along. But the good thing about it is that our founder and mentor has laid down some very clear blueprints that helps us along the way. It also helps that he established his brand in his lifetime. You find that those unseen things are things that have to do with transitioning from one generation to the next. And I think in a sense, it doesn't even matter what area, what kind of organization we're talking about here. You're going to have some similarities in that transition. And some of those things are things you learn as you go on. But it's very important that you have an idea where you want to go. Our father always wanted something world class. He always wanted something that will stand the test of time. He always wanted a legacy and archives to go with it. And so that is our guiding principle in everything we do.
It's amazing. I mean, he was a really great man and he distilled so much over such a long period of time. And now you're working with that very deep and solid foundation. And you're also in regular conversation with other artist families and foundations and collectors who are all grappling with similar questions: how to safeguard important bodies of work, how to share them ethically, how to plan for the long term. From your vantage point, Salma, particularly within Nigerian modernism and African art more broadly, what shifts are you seeing in how institutions and private collectors are approaching artist estates and archives?
To be completely honest, there still is a considerable amount of work remaining in this area. I, for one, have not noticed any significant progress in how institutions and private collectors shift from engaging with artists to working with artists' estates and their archives across Nigeria and Africa as a whole, as a matter of fact. Furthermore, without the necessary in parts of Africa like West Africa and others, it seems that artists' estates are still in the process of establishing their roles. People have gotten used to dealing with artists, and they have a quite transition dealing with their estates afterwards. Consequently, for artist estates like ours, it remains an ongoing endeavor to finalize this transition. I hope I'll even see it in my lifetime. But, however, there are several signs that we are gradually nearing our target.
I think you're right, Salma. There is a growing awareness, I think, across the whole planet, actually, that collecting isn't neutral. And I love that you say it's a work in progress. But from your experience, what does good collaboration between institutions and artist families actually look like?
So far, just like I said, estates are not quite yet completely recognized. As a matter of fact, here in Nigeria, I know that a lot of artists' estates may not have gone as far as we have gone in terms of those unseen frameworks that we've put in place, the structures. Some haven't even gone that far. I think we'll be in the forefront of that kind of thing. So a lot of collectors and institutions have been used to dealing directly with the artists. And so when the artist isn't there, there's a kind of gap. The artist estates in our environment is not yet completely recognized. It's not a matter of throwing blame here and there. It's a transitioning kind of thing, because throwing blame here and there, it's a transitioning kind of thing, because some of the art that works already out there, and it's quite possible that they haven't even bothered, that the collectors and institutions have not had any real need to look for the artist estates, and some of them don't have any proper estates either. It's a joint, ongoing effort that has to be in place, where the artists' estates are really being properly set up, and also establishing what their roles are to sort of call the attention of the public to them. deal with how artists have lived their lives. Like our father was completely deliberate about this kind of thing. And so he had in mind having a collection of works, his and some other artists that he had put together under Asale Institute. And he also had in mind having extensive archives. And so he worked towards those things. Some artists practice and don't have any of these things in place to start with. So it makes it even difficult to transition to the next level. But we're then it's not quite a level playing field, trying to articulate what artists' estates are about and getting the buy-in of the collectors and the institutions that have been used to dealing directly with the artists and can actually go and deal with second-tier collectors and all that. It's an ongoing process at best.
It's a problem that's been in existence for a very long time. I'm thinking about Picasso having not left a will and thousands of artworks, multiple children. It caused absolute chaos for years. It's lucky in your case that your father had done some of that groundwork and that put you a little bit ahead of the game. It's still, as you say, a huge transition, but it's a very important conversation to have. And I think these kind of conversations and the work that you're doing can really help a lot of other people. And so can technology play a role as a kind of an infrastructure to support that? So it feels like one of those areas where that underlying structure is both incredibly powerful and incredibly fragile when we talk about technology. And you're digitizing a vast archive. You're working with platforms like Artfundi and experimenting with both physical and digital collaborations. How do you think about technology as infrastructure for a legacy, from metadata and platforms to rights and ethics and access? And maybe what excites you most or worries you most about how digital tools are now being used in collections and exhibitions?
Uche-Okeke legacy has long recognized that technology is a crucial element of infrastructure. That is why when we selected our partner, we wanted a partner that was at the intersection of art and technology at Fundi. Our founders strongly believed in continuous cultural and technological progress. I was always genuinely interested in new ideas, remaining open to adopting those that aligned with his vision. We are confident that he would have approved of technology as a tool to expand the reach of his goals and share his ideas with broader audiences. In our view, both art and technology shape and continue to redefine the world we live in. If you remember, African art has always been involved in reimagining, pushing our perceptions and understanding of nature to its limits. If you recall, African art has always been abstract, and this is what we mean by the pushing of the understanding of nature to its limits. Through new inventions and experiments that encompass the mind and body, language, and the universe itself, space is being created for a different realm with new rules. Wouldn't you agree, Tamzin?
Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing the many ways digital tools are now being used in collections. It seems to me that technology in art challenges our perceptions, and that is the core of what creativity and science are about. Technology has been offering creatives in the Western world original ways of expression since its inception. I mean, if you look at major shifts, such as transition from analog to digital, expression, or even earlier, like the birth of Impressionism, the iconic silk screen prints of Andy Warhol, Stellak's provocative performances would not have been possible if technology and science, alongside the creative's journey, had not fostered innovation and new frontiers. So creatives, like scientists, explore materials, people, culture, histories, religion, and the knowledge gained transforms into something new. One of the earliest figures in the West associated with scientific exploration is the renowned Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes, he was amazing.
And to the inquisitive minds of the 17th century, we owe the invention of the microscope and the telescope, alongside studies of eye perception and color theory. The advent of photography and Walt Disney's moving pictures, nothing has transformed activities such as painting, drawing, sculpture, and music more than the invention of the computer between 1936 and 1938. with it a completely new understanding of creative production, and the relationship between art and technology was born. I don't have any concerns so far because man remains the primary source of creativity. It's an ongoing experiment and we can only benefit from the experience.
I literally had goosebumps while you were talking because it reminded me how excited I am about being at this intersection of art and technology, these two things that I love. And
It's
also
really
what I'm
exciting.
hearing, it really is. But what I'm hearing also is that technology is not the solution, it is the amplifier. It can deepen care or it can flatten meaning, depending on the values underneath it and who's using it and how. Do you think we're doing enough as an art world to build ethical frameworks alongside technological ones?
I think it's, well, if you're talking of AI, I think it's early days. I think it's early days yet. We have to first experiment with it and stretch it as far as it can go before we are able to say, okay, this is how it must be. These are the frameworks I would protect and all that. Right now, it's at the experimental stage and it's all exciting. I would like to see where it takes us.
Salma, you and your late sister, my friend Ijeoma, you played a central role in merging Asele Institute and the Professor Uche-Okeke Legacy Limited into what's now the Uche-Okeke Legacy. And today you're leading a family organization that has to be both deeply mission-driven and commercially sustainable. What has leadership meant for you in this context? Are there any principles or decision-making rules that you come back to when you're thinking about building something that can endure beyond your generation?
I must admit that leadership is an ongoing practice. We fell into the deep pool and we're still swimming. You meet the challenges on an ongoing basis. And balancing family, governance, and finance must continue to evolve because you just won't get there all at once. But in essence, it seems to me that a key focus for this development must be sustainability. It has to be, because sustainability provides you with the necessary balance to manage the right mix of non-profit and profit-driven activities that serve to build both the legacy and the family. If you don't get that right balance, then something starts pushing from one side or the other. While your leadership is evolving and you're getting things gradually in place to support it, you have to definitely, from day one, be thinking sustainability as well. Remember that sustainability is not all cash. There's collateral that you benefit from that is not necessarily cash. But whatever it is, it has to be something that you're thinking for the long term.
Absolutely.
That is the kind of leadership that can work in this kind of situation because people keep changing also. As it's not like a standard workplace environment.
Definitely not. It's the kind of leadership that's rooted in stewardship rather than control. And that is a powerful leadership.
Leadership that can really work has to be a form of stewardship in the real sense. If you plan to go far, it must be something like that because you really have to understand those that you're leading and you have to direct them without being obvious. But how can you do that if you don't understand what they are looking for and you don't have ways of maybe reorienting them? So it's definitely a humbling experience. I think all leadership will have to be that.
Absolutely. I think it's a conversation we need to have more frequently, especially in the creative industries, to unpack a kind of stewardship-based leadership model. I don't think we have all the answers yet.
Check you, Tamzin. I see you practicing it. I mean, that's how come everybody is comfortable. So what happens is, and I saw my dad do it also, what happens is people take ownership and run with it. They even forget where they got the idea from. It becomes theirs. They own it. That's the best way when people feel completely aligned with the idea to the extent that it becomes theirs.
Yes.
And you are just at the back watching. A good leader doesn't have to be acknowledged. The best acknowledgement for a leader is the results that you get.
Yes. Wonderful. Salma, I'm going to switch gears a little and end with a quick fire round. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. A book about creativity or business that you always recommend.
Well, Tamzin, I'm going to definitely recommend Art in Development and Nigerian Perspective. It's an invaluable contribution to the development and ongoing growth of the intellectual, creative, and artistic endowment institutions and organizations across Africa. It captures everything in his own words. So that would be my book.
We'll add a link to where people can get in touch with that book. Who gave you the best advice that you still use today?
I got advice from a lot of people, not necessarily like sitting down for formal advice, but just in the course of discussing. But I find that the best advice I still have is one that was given to me by my dad. Funny enough, about discipline. I had just finished my secondary school education. I'll never forget. And he talked to me about discipline and said how it was a bedrock of everything. And as I move on in life, it has continued to resonate and remains very relevant and central to any progress I've managed to achieve so far.
One piece of business advice that you'd give your 20-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self didn't know much about, building a pool of experts and partners to support business ideas. I would have been thinking of running solo and such things. This is the advice I would give, because I wish I started it off earlier. Building a pool of experts or partners like we have with AdFundi to help grow your business with infusion of new ideas and, completely different from what you could have even thought of, because there's nothing like expanding your mind by bringing in other great minds. This is what I would have told my 20-year-old self.
And finally, Salma, if you were an artwork, what would you be and why?
If I had the opportunity to be a piece of artwork, there are several artworks that I really love, but I would have to choose to be featured as Primeval Beast by Uche-Okeke and Oil on Board. The echoes of folklore that piece evokes tug at my heartstrings. I love the earthy shades of red, orange, yellow ochre, and blue, along with the intricate woolly lines that Uche-Okeke used to depict that monstrous toad in an abstract style. I must say that I completely enjoy the strange mixture of love and loathing that the work stirs in me.
And for anyone who's interested in seeing what that artwork looks like, it's part of the Tate exhibition. So if you're in London, you can go and have a look at it in person. Otherwise, you can find it in the interview we did with Salma in the Armature magazine, issue number 1. Salma, thank you so much for this conversation, for your honesty, your generosity, and for making visible the structures that so often go unseen. What you're doing isn't just about preserving the past, it's about shaping futures. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And thank you to everyone listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with someone who cares about art, leadership, or legacy, and join us next time for Taller Together.